at it. New week and good practice, good energy today. Everybody showed up and went back to work. Obviously, spent Sunday going back and watching the Cincinnati game, and just as a staff watching it. Number one thing that stands out is our guys played extremely hard, really for 4 quarters. I felt like it was probably our most complete game from a effort standpoint, and from the beginning, really all the way through. Obviously, we didn't make the plays there in the 4th quarter that we needed to pull that off. But the guys played hard. The guys played with confidence. The guys played with belief, and really, I think showed a lot of grit and resilience. And we talk about resilience is about facing adversity and rebounding from it to come back stronger than ever. And I think obviously don't have to go through all the stuff we've been through for the last 5 weeks, but to go through all of that and maybe have one of our best performances of the year, I think that's something we definitely can hold on to and build from. And offensively, really proud of our offensive line. I mean, we knew going into it that was going to be one of the biggest challenges. And Cincinnati, number 1 in the country in sacks with 23 sacks, and that was playing an option team in there too. But and then Brad went down early. Dustin Hall had to go in at center. So I mean, we had guys in a lot of different positions, and they did a really good job with no sacks against that front 7, who's giving everybody problems. And then also rushing the ball for 224 yards. I think that tied Arkansas for the most yards against Cincinnati this year, and we had 2 running backs available. So really proud of those guys up front. Hopefully we can build off of that first drive, something we had failed to do all year long. And, really just kind of unorthodox, decided we're going to take the ball at their place. And the guys went down and executed and scored there early. I thought that was big. Came back, got the interception on defense, then went down. Would have loved to get 7 points there instead of 3 points. But at the end of the day, there was about 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. We're up 10-0, and they'd had 1 play on offense. And that, we knew we were going to have to kind of thread a very tight needle versus that team with the guys that we had out and kind of where we are. In the first half, I think we played to our strength pretty well. At the time of possession, we had the ball 20 minutes to their 10 minutes. And then the second half, we just, offensively just didn't finish the drives that we needed to be able to keep the ball and be able to score. But defensively, and then the other positive I think offensively is no turnovers. I thought that was a positive, even though we had 2 balls on the ground. We've got to get that cleaned up. Defensively, again, good to get off to a good start. The interception, I think having AB back showed a difference there. And then much better on 3rd down. And that's been a problem that's kind of plagued us throughout last 2 years. And we were, I think they were 2 of 7 on 3rd down. And I felt like we played a lot better pass defense, obviously, than the week before. They came out, tried to throw the ball first play, so that kind of told you what they had thought off the video. But, to hold them under 200 yards passing, I thought that was something that we can build off of there. And then we continue to have a couple sacks and tackles for loss. But at the end of the day, trying to pull that off, we had to play a little bit better than we did. We did a lot of good things, but wasn't quite good enough to go on the road and beat a team that's had a ton of success the last few years. And so that part's frustrating. But like I told our guys, it's not like we got to just start over and just do something different. If we were to go out there and just, get blown out and not even, be competitive, then you got to look at what you're doing and all that. But our guys are fighting, and really it's just, a few small details that continue to show up that we got to clean up and fix. Very excited. Our guys are very excited about coming back and being at home. When we pull in Ray J on Saturday, it'll be the first time in 35 days that we've been there. And I don't think that's ever happened here before. And obviously part of it's because of the hurricane there and relocating to Fort Lauderdale. But I know our guys are excited to get back in our home stadium with our students and alumni and fans. Obviously homecoming's a really big deal, and our guys are looking forward to that. Tulane, they're having one of their best seasons they've had in a long time. They're 5-1, and honestly, 1 play away from being 6-0. They've done an excellent job of really developing their players, and they're playing at a very high level. Defensively, they've got one of the top-ranked defenses in the country. Out of 131 teams, they're number 4 in pass defense. They're number 7 in scoring defense, and they're number 15 in total defense. So pretty dang impressive right there, and they've played some good teams as well. And on offense, I think it starts with their quarterback, Michael Pratt. We've seen him the last 2 years, and really talented player. I think in his 2.5 years, he's responsible for 62 touchdowns, passing and running. And he's got a really good group of skilled players around him. They know their scheme inside and out. They got a good group up front, but they like to throw the ball. So that's going to be another challenge for us versus another talented quarterback. It seems like we're in that year every week. We're playing another talented quarterback. So another big challenge. I think that the biggest thing for us is we've shown that we can play at a high level versus two very talented teams on the road in their environment. Right, the two biggest environments that we played in were Florida and then Cincinnati last week. And what we've got to be able to do is we've got to be able to play at a high level each and every week. And one thing I talked to the team about, we did not respond well to the heartbreaking loss against Florida, right? The next week we came out against Louisville, and physically and mentally we weren't ready to play. And we talked about it all week, but at the end of the day, we didn't respond the right way. And this loss against Cincinnati is very, very similar to the Florida loss, heartbreaking right there, leading the fourth quarter, had a chance to pull something big off. But we've got to respond a lot better. We've got to learn from what happened between Florida and Louisville and make sure that doesn't happen between Cincinnati and Tulane this week. So that's a big focus for us. And I do expect it to get some guys back from injury standpoint on maybe a challenging side. Rashad Cheney did break his ankle. He's going to have surgery this week. He'll be out for the year. Safety Ray Thornton, who's been out the last couple of weeks, is going to go ahead and have surgery on his shoulder. He'll be out for the year. Kelly Joyner was back today, but he was just doing a little bit of individuals. I think that's a good sign. His scan that he got yesterday was very positive that his bone is healed. And I'm not ready to say that he'll be ready to play this Saturday because he hasn't been able to practice in whatever it's 4 or 5 weeks. But just getting him back out there to go through individual and start running again and all that tells me that he's definitely on the path back. I expect to get Mikey Dukes back. He looked really good today. And then, too early to tell. Some guys that practiced today that we'll see how they do the rest of the week is Yates, Mangum, Day-Day, and Brad Cecil. A little too early to tell on those guys, but hopefully we'll get several of those guys back. And then Greer will be out again this week. And really just want to say our thoughts and prayers are with Antonio Greer and his family. He lost his father. Last week, and definitely something that difficult for anybody, and especially when you're off at school, is very challenging. He was able to go back and see his dad the week before, whenever we were down in Fort Lauderdale, and we got the word that his father was not doing very good. We were able to fly him up to Atlanta to be able to go see his dad in the hospital, but he's dealing with all of that. So our thoughts and prayers will be with Mr. Greer this week. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
When you looked at the fourth down, the Bohannon to Batty play on film, what did you see? How did you analyze it? The choice that was made. What did you see?
Yeah, and we talked about it, and I think Gary would tell you the same thing. We wish he would have ran it, and he wishes he would have ran it. Looking back at it, just to kind of get technical with it, he was supposed to read the linebacker that's right there, and if the linebacker runs with the back, then he's supposed to keep it, and there was a very nice hole there. And but the linebacker stepped up and then turned and ran right at the time that Gary was going to throw it. So for us as coaches, I think we can do a better job of two things. Number one, if we call it that same way, tell him, hey, we're calling it on 4th and 1, and you're running it unless that guy's blitzing and it's super obvious, but you're running it. So I think we could have done a better job of coaching him on that and not let it be a normal RPO where it's kind of 50-50 and you kind of live in that world. Then the other thing that we could have done a little bit better is probably clean it up for him. and maybe jet the running back out a little bit early before we snap the ball. But it was one of those that's very gray, that when you watch the read, as soon as the ball snapped, he stepped up, and then he took off. And Gary watches him step up and goes to throw it. But at the end of the day, we've got to coach that a little bit better and explain to him the intent of the play was to pull the linebacker out and run the quarterback. And, so we take responsibility of that, and Gary does as well. And he did something that I haven't seen in the 2.5 years that I've been here. He stood up in the team meeting yesterday after I got done and took responsibility, for that play, which I thought was pretty special and unique. And hopefully that'll be a kind of a point we can look back on later in the year, seeing a guy stand up in front of his teammates and take ownership, in those kind of situations. Even when honestly it was a very gray deal. I think we could have coached him better to have him prepared for that exact situation. So that's the truth on that.
One of the things you wanted to build in off-season was build depth.
Yeah.
And that's had a lot of, should we say, a lot of opportunity this year because of the injuries to
Yeah.
frontline guys. How do you feel that they've been stepping up on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, well, I think a positive is, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season that we were going to play Cincinnati, knowing what they had up front, their front seven, and we were not going to have Dono, and we were not going to have Brad, and Meach was going to be playing with one foot. I mean, his other foot's numb, basically, and he's out there doing the best he can. I would have told you, it probably was going to be tough, right? And also, Josh Blanchard, our backup tackle, is out for the year, and then Zach Mendoza, who we brought in as a transfer tackle, got here and had a medical condition, and he's coaching with us right now. So if you'd have told me all of that, and then we still would have gone out and been able to execute the game plan and had no sacks and run for over 200 yards. So I think that part, those are the small things that you see as a coach. It doesn't make the loss any less devastating, but it does give you, I've also been a part of losses where there's not a lot of bright spots. You just got your butt whipped. And that wasn't that situation. There was a lot of guys that really, you also think about like K1 Powell. He hadn't played a whole lot, and we went into that game with just Batee. I think Batee, he's having an incredible season. He makes a lot of plays, and he's just been more durable than he's ever been. And, he's a guy that's really standing out for us. Defensive line-wise, we've been challenged there a little bit, and it's been good to see, a few of those guys step up. We're hoping to be able to get Yates back this week. I think that would be really big. Obviously losing some guys inside, and then, again, little things that I notice as a coach in a world that maybe these things are a little bit less common, is Jatorian Hansford, who signed with us to play defensive end and had multiple offers to go other places to play defensive end. And then he gets here and we have several injuries inside, and we go to him and say, we need you to go play inside. He says, yes, sir, whatever to help the team, and hadn't batted an eye. That's the stuff that gets me excited, honestly, because you don't have to go very far and see there's a lot of the other, right? And I'm going to take my ball and go home, and I played my 4 games, and this didn't work out. Man, these guys, obviously we haven't played as well as we want to play, and everybody in there is frustrated. But every time I show up in that team meeting and they're all there with an attitude and they're frustrated, and with an attitude to show up and go back to work, that encourages me that the inside is much improved. Now, ultimately, it's just, a few plays that we got to kind of get over that last hump.
Speaking of defensive line, I thought,
Yeah.
I had tweeted just a couple plays before Shaney went out that he had been playing some
Yeah.
really good ball, and
Yeah.
Hansford, obviously, Jason Vaughn has had
Right. Yeah.
a couple good plays here and there. Just, and if you look at that unit in terms of where they are this year, sack-wise, they've already matched what they had a season ago.
Yeah.
Just, how impressed
Yeah,
with that?
I think the big word is progress. I think that's probably the big word. I think that group can still do more, and we need them to do more, but they've done more than they had previously. And, and it really, something I've challenged them on, earlier in the year is just straining and fighting to get off of blocks and being relentless to make plays. And I've seen more of that the last few weeks than maybe I did at the beginning of the year. I didn't feel like we played very well at all up front against BYU. And but that group has, and you're right. I mean, obviously our sacks and TFLs were very, very poor the last 2 years, and it's improving now. So I think that's something that we can build off of. And again, we've had maybe 4 weeks in a row without Yates, who's kind of one of those staples there inside. And so hopefully we get him back. It'll continue to improve.
When you look at the amount of injuries that you've had and the type of players that are hurt, do you say bad luck? I mean, is there an explanation?
Yeah, we've I'll look into it and think about it. I think if they were all the same thing, like right now, the most common one we're having is a broken wrist. So, like, I don't know if that's drinking more milk. Seriously, those are the questions that I'm asking. Like, there's not anything that I know of that it would lead to that. If we had a lot of the same injury, like when you're having like a broken foot, a broken wrist, again, Dono, like it's all been kind of different injuries. I think to me, when you have a team, sometimes you'll see teams that maybe have like 5 to 6 guys that tear hamstrings, or even 4 or 5 that tear an ACL. If you're having a lot of the same injury, then you kind of like, all right, what are we doing? What are we not doing? Need to kind of look into that. But honestly, I think we just had some bad luck, and I'm hoping and praying that that it's kind of the first half of the season. And what I told our guys is, hey, the way that we fought last week, all of a sudden we get some more guys back, then watch out, right? And that needs to kind of be our mindset and our attitude. And the guys that are out, they will want to get back. That's another thing you can kind of watch on the sidelines at practice, or like these guys want to get back, and they want to help their team. A couple of those guys know they could have helped Saturday, and that hurts them. So, at the end of the day, right, the only thing we control is our attitude, and you can talk yourself down a dark hole real quick, thinking about all the injuries and things that have happened, but at the same time, we got to respond the right way and be positive and control what we can control, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
What is the net effect of that? And what I mean is, every football team has injuries.
Yeah.
And you don't want to make excuses, but the reality of it is, you look at all these guys that are starting for you and they're not available week after week. I mean, how do you balance that? That's
hard to answer because I'm usually someone that likes to tell the truth, and I think that's a good place to start. But also I'm very cautious because I don't, whenever my time is done here, I don't want people to be able to say that I used a bunch of excuses. I want to say, hey, this is what it is, and we moved forward, and we were positive in everything that we did. And so I've tried to be careful in that, but you can't hide from the reality that it has an impact. And I think ultimately, if I think about some of our later years at Clemson, you could probably lose 10 guys off of one of those teams, and nobody would notice. I mean, I had years where T. Higgins and Mike Williams were my backup receivers, and so somebody goes down, another first rounder goes in, and hopefully, we'll develop that over time. But I think kind of for where we are going into the season, we felt like if we had everybody, and you're never going to have just everybody, but if we have 95% of our guys, we felt really good about, what we were going to be able to do. And we've probably been in that 75% range. But again, the thing that I appreciate is the guys really haven't blinked an eye, and they keep moving. No players have made excuses or, pity me or this, that, and the other or whatever, or it's just not meant to be. There hadn't been any of that. I mean, the guys have been showing up and next man up. And I think ultimately the net positive, the disappointing part is when you lose some close games and have a lot of guys out and just wonder if we'd had this guy for that 4th and 1 or goal line play or whatever, could it have been different? That part's hard. But the net positive of it is that we're getting a lot of other guys' good work. like K1 Powell's getting a lot of work, and those other younger guys are getting a lot of work. So when we do get the older guys back, now we truly have developed depth during the season, right? We talk about developing depth, and we practice 2 and 3 groups every day, right? But really, I mean, there's a whole nother level when you're having to go out there and play, and they're counting on you. So I think the net positive for the rest of this year and beyond is there's a lot of guys that are getting meaningful snaps, and the only way you learn is you go out there. You have some success and you fail, and you learn from that and don't make the same mistake, the next time you get back there. So, yes, it's a challenge, but well, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to improve in our overall team health here down the stretch.
Jeff, you said in your opening statement just that you guys didn't respond well to the Florida loss.
Yeah.
So how do you say anything different this week? Do anything
Yeah,
different this week?
I brought it up in the locker room at Florida, and I might have even told y'all that at post game, because Louisville had lost maybe the day before, Friday night, I think, Friday or Thursday, I can't remember. They lost to Florida State, where they maybe felt like they could have won, and then we turned around the next day and lost to Florida, felt like we had a chance to win, and so literally it was one of the first things that came to my mind in the locker room after the Florida game, as I said, hey, both us and Louisville are coming off heartbreaking losses to good teams, and the team that's going to play the best next week is the one that's going to be able to move past it, and we've got to find a way to move past it. And again, talked about it Sunday and Tuesday, and maybe you don't talk about it. Maybe that's what you're supposed to do, because I talked about it a lot and we didn't get over it. Now there's also the physical toll, right? I mean we had a deal at Clemson too. If you looked at everybody's record after they played us at Clemson the next week, they didn't play very well, and we took a physical. There was a physical toll to be paid after the Florida game. I know we got some guys banged up a little bit Saturday, but I felt like we came out overall, other than Cheney and Brad Cecil, I feel like we came out healthier. Like Gary looks really good right now in practice and all that, where he did not look good after, the first half of the Florida game from a health standpoint. It took him 2 weeks to get over it. So, I think all you can do is, address it and move forward, but it's a challenge. And again, you can talk about it, but we didn't do it. And, the other thing is we played our best 2 games against on the road in big environments. We haven't played well, in a different environment. And so we got to be able to bring that same energy and same desire and all that each and every one of these weeks, because we're going to continue to play really good teams.
As I asked you after the Louisville game, with Gary and kind of how he played the first 4.
Yeah.
If you had full confidence.
Right.
You said yes.
Yeah.
As these past 2 games, I mean, he hasn't thrown an interception. He's commanded the offense, pretty well.
Yeah.
Did you see something shift in him after that Louisville game to right the ship a little bit?
Well, I'm sure, that'd be something you could ask him. I definitely think there's probably been things with him in his own mind that he's worked through. But one thing that's obvious to me that I know is a big deal is he got his receivers back, right? He got Weaver and Jimmy back, and you saw Jimmy against ECU and then Weaver, impact last week. So getting those guys back, like that's important. But I'm sure with Gary, all of us, players, coaches, everybody, even though we knew we had some challenging games, we didn't envision the first 6 games going the way they have, and didn't envision the first 4 games going the way they have. So I'm sure for him, trying to kind of work through all of that, and then at some point, you got to make a decision that, you know what, I'm here, and we're going to have to do this, and the only way we're going to get out of this is if we get ourselves out of it. And so I saw him trying to find his way in that leadership kind of role and really kind of take charge. And then, again, I think just the reality of it is, he had a pretty bone bruise, whatever you want to call it, shoulder and all that stuff. He wasn't 100%, after the Florida game, but he wouldn't hardly let the trainer see him. He didn't hardly want to let anybody see anything because there wasn't any way he was not going to play. I mean, the trainers probably gave him an out at the halftime of the Florida game based on some things they saw, and he got up and left and went in the locker room and got in the offensive huddle and said, "Let's go." And that's obviously we're not going to let guys play if they're truly injured, but when you kind of get in that mode where you could go either way, you know, I'm pleased. But I wouldn't say that I don't think there's like this one moment. I just, from what I've seen from Gary since he's been here and what I saw from him in fall camp, I knew that from our team and from him, the first few games wasn't, you know, his best or our best. So I knew that eventually things will sort themselves out a little bit, and feel like that's kind of happening right now, not just with him, but overall in a lot of areas.
And then looking at Tulane, I mean, it seems like their 2-10 season last year is
Yeah.
more of an anomaly with what
Yeah.
they've been building over the last 3
Yeah.
or 4. What have you seen as the biggest improvement with that team coming into week 6?
Yeah. Well, and again, it's hard, you know, you just watch them on video. They're well coached. They play extremely hard. They're very athletic. I mean, their safeties and corners. I mean, they're extremely athletic. Their linebackers are excellent players. Overall, just team speed. I think they've done a good job of recruiting and developing that. And the quarterback's playing at a high level. They just look like a very confident team. You know, defensively, they don't do a ton of stuff, but the better you are, the less stuff you have to do. And so it kind of makes sense that, you know, they're just all around. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. They play hard, and they recruited well and developed well. I think there's been maybe a couple of transfers they brought in that are having a good impact for them this year. But, you know, but we saw last year, even in the midst of what was a down year for them, they played extremely well against us, and that was, you know, a disappointing performance for us towards the end of the season last year. So we got to make sure that we do the things required to play a lot better against them this year.
Some of the things you were speaking about with Gary from a leadership standpoint, apparently Wayne Boyles has exhibited that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
In terms of
Yeah.
dealing with his teammates.
Yeah.
Getting in their faces and all that. What have you seen from Dwayne that from a leadership standpoint
I
impresses you? This year?
Appreciate you bringing that up. And I think with you know, Greer a lot of times has kind of been the voice of that defense. He's a little bit louder sometimes than Boyles has been, but with Greer being out the last few weeks, and you know, Boyles really has taken over, and it's kind of interesting that both him and Gary both wear number 11. But I feel like he's made the same impact to that defense and really just kind of being that vocal leader. And again, you've had 2 of our leaders being out with Greer and Yates being out, and so you got some newer people in there. And you know, Boyles has stepped up, and Boyles is having his own defensive meetings. We're limited on the number of hours by NCAA that we're allowed to meet with our guys. So Boyles has been organizing defensive team meetings for them to come up in the evenings as a defense and watch video. Like, those are the little things, you know, that it takes when you're trying to kind of get over that hump a little bit. And then just overall his demeanor and intensity in practice. I mean, those guys, this is important to them. They know this is their last year. They've been here for a long time, and they're running out of games, right? And they want to. They came back because they wanted to leave it better than maybe how it had been the last few years. So this is very important to all of them, as well as myself and our team. You know, how we finish these last 6 games.
And he speaks about, you know, when he got here, I think they won the first 7 games,
Yeah.
and then hadn't been quite that way. But he
Right.
speaks about it doesn't matter what we're confronted with; it's not going to stop me. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's what you want.
Yeah.
From
I
these
mean,
players. So that attitude, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think just the grit, the resilience, and you know, we were hoping that was all behind us after last year, and that this was going to kind of be a different year. But we're kind of getting that 3rd PhD in adversity, facing adversity, and the grit, resilience, and all those things. And again, that's something. Obviously, we're all disappointed with where we are from a record standpoint. But what gives me confidence of how we're going to be able to finish this season is seeing the way that those guys have responded and continued to show up each and every week and try to take it up a notch. And, you know, at the end of the day, as a coach, eventually, you know, like I said before, every storm's going to run out of rain. And I just feel like we're just that one win away from truly taking off. And, you know, the frustration part is that, you know, we've been close there a couple of times and hadn't quite got it. But, you know, we're going to have some more opportunities here the end of the day, we played 6 games and got 6 games to go. And so that's what those guys know, and that's what they're working towards.
Speaking of Tulane, Jeff, the guy that's been lining up next to him, Gordon, he was spoke
Yeah.
very highly of him from the get-go in fall camp.
Yeah.
And he only continues to
Yeah.
fulfill what you expected from him.
Yeah, I'm really proud of DJ. He's made an impact, and again, especially with Greer going down, you know, and also, you know, Bino, Brian Norris is a guy that's played a lot of ball for us, and he went down for the season. And so for DJ to be able to step in and really, you know, play at a high level, I think the thing that I see with him is just side to side. I think we've always trying to get faster in our team speed side to side when people kind of get out on edges against us. And one thing you see about DJ is he's running down and he's making those plays. And I mean, sometimes they're going to have a scheme and, you know, okay, they got 8 yards, but let's make sure it's not 58 yards, right? And that's kind of where we are defensively is, you know, if we're playing 60 plays pretty solid, but it's those 10 big plays that really become the difference, right? And so how do we narrow those down? And I think DJ's just overall speed sideline to sideline has helped us with that, and it's been good to watch him and Boyles be able to kind of work with each other, and it'll be great to eventually hopefully we'll get Greer back after the open date, and now we'll have 3 guys that we feel really strong about, you know, going into the last half of the season. All right, thank y'all. Sure.
You know, when they first told me, like, Joyner, you know, if you want to play 3 tech, you know, I'm a team player, so whatever I had to do to help the team win, you know, I had to do it. But me, like, I haven't been playing 3 tech, like, I come here to play in. So if I'm going to be playing 3 tech, I want to better my craft. So that's something I had to just lock in on, was try to better my craft at the 3 tech so I could be able to play it best, so I could be able to play it, you know, the best I can. So, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. You know, it wasn't a big deal. I played it in the past, so you know, I had to just step up, you know, be a leader and just do what I had to do to help the team win, help the team get a win.
How's it gone in terms of your success inside? How are you feeling about it and how you're playing there?
I mean, like I said, it's not a big deal. Like, with me personally, like, if I'm going any position I'm playing, I'm just going to try to picture myself making plays at the position. So that's what I try to do. I try to dream about me making plays at the position, and usually it come true. So, you know, I'm a team player. I played the position before, so it wasn't a big of a deal for real.
What's kind of the mentality of the locker room at this point after the loss the other day?
You know, we try to put our losses in the rearview mirror, you know, look past it, but also, you know, go back and make corrections off the loss. You know, we just try to, you know, keep our energy high. Even though we lost, just keep a high energy and just focus on the next game and try to get a W from the next game. Just take one day at a time, basically.
You guys obviously battled Florida close a couple weeks ago and then couldn't kind of build on that. What's different and how you guys try and build on this close ones?
What was the question? Like,
Yeah, that was a bad question.
Yeah.
How are you guys going to respond? What are you guys going to try and do to respond differently from this one compared to the Florida loss?
You know, it was a Florida loss, Cincy loss. It was a you know, it was a heartbreaking loss. I mean, like I said, a loss is a loss. You know, close or not, to me, a loss is a loss. So, like, you just got to move past it. You can't let that. You can't dwell on it. You can't dwell on a loss. You just got to move past it and just try to focus on the next week and try to make something happen for the next game.
Torian, you have a lot of injuries on this team, including Rashad Cheney. He's out for the year. I know coaches and players don't want to make injuries into an excuse.
Right.
It's part of football.
It's part of football.
But you have a lot of them, and a lot of key players. So what's been the effect of kind of having to play without these guys for several weeks?
And when you have injuries, basically guys just got to step up. You know, guys on the team got to step up. You know, it's a great opportunity for the younger guys or whoever hasn't been playing. So, you know, they just got to take on the opportunity. The people who hasn't been playing, they got to, if they need to come in and fill in the spot, just got to take the opportunity to be able to play. So, I mean, I know we got a lot of injuries and stuff, but, you know, like we try not to, you know, if you injury and like if you hurt and injured, that's different. You know what I'm saying? Like if you can play when you're hurt, but if you're injured, then you know you can't play. So somebody else got to step up and take on the role.
Through 6 games this season, you guys have tied your sack total from a year ago as a team, 10 away from tying tackles for loss from last year. I know that you were at Mizzou last year, but just, you know, have you gotten the vibe from some of the returning guys that they feel significant improvement from, you know, last year to this year in terms of
Yeah.
numbers?
You know, I talk about the guys from last year, but I'm a new guy as well. So like, I'm not a new guy no more, but I don't really focus on last year. You know, but like hearing from my D-line brothers, they have been talking about like it's a whole new D-line. Like it's the best D-line like South Florida probably ever had. So, you know, like they feel like it's like the most best D-line that we had. But you know, we just got to just finish, get the job done, basically.
And a guy that, you know, I think he picked up another sack last week against the Cincy, if I remember.
You talking about Jason Vaughn?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got 2 on the year so far. He's been kind of one of those guys that have flown under the radar.
Yep.
Just what have we seen from him at the end?
When I look at Vaughn, he's a vet. You know what I'm saying? He's not a young pup. He's not a young guy. He's a vet. So he know what it takes to be that man, be the guy. He know what it is to get the plays done, get the job done. So I mean, I expect him to have those sacks. I expect that, to be honest.
Tori, your first home game in more than a month, too. You're not having to fly off somewhere or drive across the state.
Right.
To be uprooted to get away from the storm. Is that a big deal? You guys are here?
No, it's a big deal, man. It's nice to be back home. Hopefully, we'll get to stay home this Saturday. But you know, it's a big deal, and I heard it's a homecoming this Saturday, so that's even bigger too. So you know, we just want to get the job done, get a W. We playing against Tulane, right? Yeah, Tulane. They're a pretty good team and whatnot, but you know, we just need to get the job done. Basically, you know, it's a big home game. It's a homecoming. A lot of fans probably going to be there, but you know, if we can get this W, then everything come out in our favor.
So with the timing of this, you know, you nearly beat Cincinnati, which is a very difficult thing to do, and now you have Tulane, and then you have an off week. So if you can have some success, theoretically, start healing some people up and really get locked in for the second week. So how big is it to just have that one push and get this one and then a little break?
I mean, I feel like, you know, when we come out and beat Tulane, that's gonna set the bar for us. Then we go in for an off week, get guys rest up, you know, run a couple plays, you know, whatever we have to do. But I feel like, you know, once we beat Tulane, it's gonna set a bar for us going into the bye week.
You mentioned some corrections that you want to see when it comes to this.
Some corrections. I just some corrections for the team. I just want to get the job done. I mean, we got a whole lot of corrections to work on. I'm not finna point them out and stuff, but I feel like we got the team. We got some good players on the team, and I feel like we're capable of winning. And I just want to get the job done and win games.
As you you know, look at your film study for Tulane this week, another good quarterback, you know, some good receivers. What do you see from the Green Wave on tape so far?
What I see from Tulane, they're a pretty good disciplined team, and I feel like we need to be disciplined as well to come out and beat them. They got some great guys, good running backs. They got some disciplined O-linemen. I just look at the offense. I don't know what the defense look like, but I just look at the offense. So, I mean, they're a pretty good disciplined team. So, we just need to come out, play hard, start fast, and you know, just do what we need to do our job. Thank y'all.
I'm gonna say, just start off with today, taking it one day at a time, putting that game in the past, and not letting it linger around and affect us mentally. I know we fell short, but just understanding the opportunity that we have up next. I think as long as we're taking it one day at a time and focusing on those 1 days and how it's going to affect Saturday, I think that's all we can do.
You talked so much about mentality after the game on Saturday. You know, these last 2 games, you haven't thrown an interception, a lot more efficient, as Brian just said. You know, did you have a mindset change between Louisville to East Carolina?
I did. Just really reflecting on the previous games before that in my play, just understanding that I got to be smarter with my decision making, and just really just focusing on that one play at a time. As long as I'm focusing on that one play at a time and not worrying about what can happen, what's the next play, the previous play before, just focusing on that one play at a time. And I mean, it's been helping me. Just taking a deep breath and focusing on it being right there in that moment.
And how important was getting Xavier and Jimmy back, and and Chopper back here and there? How important was that adding into that?
Oh, it was very, very important. Tough losses at the time, being when it was an issue, but just getting those guys back, get their confidence back, our bond and confidence in each other growing, and just the connecting, coming back together. I mean, it's been good. We've been really working towards it in practice, and just finally showing in the game. And we look forward to taking those next steps.
Gary, Coach Scott was talking about the fourth down play at Cincinnati, and so kind of a tricky read, but he said, you would probably say if you could do it over again, you'd run it.
Yep.
He said you got up in front of the team and took accountability for that. What made you want to do that, to kind of talk to the guys and take the blame for something like that?
Just after the play happened, seeing it on that big screen, I knew I should have ran it. It was a little RPO tag. Guy kind of got me. I made the decision too fast. I should have made my mind up, just knowing the situation. Just do it. Just make the play myself. Just reflect on that. I've been reflecting on it all weekend, but today finally put it in the past. I'm just focused on Tulane now. That can't let that happen again. I mean, it happened. I mean, it's part of the game. I'm over it. It was fully 100% on me, and that is what it is. I won't let it happen again.
Gary, clearly, when you listen to Jeff, this team seems to have kept the faith, despite the fact this is way below everybody's expectation. What is it that keeps this team from falling apart, given it the way the things have gone?
I would say honestly, everybody's desire to change it. Everybody desire to want to win. Everybody desire that we gotta flip it. Like there's no other way. And just that mentality each and every day, because we watch the film, we practice, we see the glimpses, we see how close you are. And like Coach Scott always say, we're not that far off. And I think everybody actually understands that. So now it's like every time you watch a game, you watch the film, you're like, okay, we fell short. Yeah, I heard it, but what else can we do? What else can I do? And everybody just focusing on themselves, and I think it's all coming together. And I think that that breakthrough will come. We just got to keep attacking it one day at a time.
Tulane's defense has been much improved from last year, this year. Just what have you seen out of the Green Wave as you start to film study?
I see a group of guys that love the game. I see a group of guys that play really, really hard. They're rolling right now, 5-1. Exciting season for those guys, but we're also excited for the opportunity to get to play those guys. I know Coach Scott, Coach Trickett, all the offensive staff will have a good game plan for them. Excited to get out there and compete with those guys. You see a team that plays some really good football. They're really disciplined, and pretty much that's it.
There, you've had some shuffling on the offensive line due to injuries. You were not sacked at all Saturday at Cincinnati. Can you talk about how the guys have been stepping up and performing?
And just with practice, it starts with practice. Those guys, they practice with high intensity, always looking to learn, always watching the guys in front of them. So there's never no drop-off. It's the next man's up game. So those guys just attacking and watching the film and trying to get better each and every day. Of course, when you're preparing right, you're going to be able to step in those roles and fulfill those shoes. So those guys were just excited to be out there. It was good to be out there with those guys and just see what the future holds with those guys.
Gary, whether it's the O-line or as Will mentioned about Horn and Weaver, you've had some injuries in a lot of places this year, and nobody wants to make it an excuse. You have a lot of them, so what's been the effect, and kind of how do you measure that while not making an excuse, but also knowing that, hey, it's tough not having these guys?
I mean, yeah, we all know it's tough, but honestly, what can we do about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, guys know, like, dang, what if we would have had this guy? What if we have these guys in this role? What if we all out there together playing at a high level? What would we be right now? That's all a what if. Right now, all we can do is focus on the guys that's playing. That's all we can focus on. That's the only focus we're on, finding ways for each guy that's on the field to do their job at the highest level possible. And from there, I mean, yeah, we're missing a couple of guys, but guys are stepping up playing ball. That's all you can ask for.
Good things tend to happen when Jimmy Horn has the ball. How do you get him more touches?
Basically with offensive schemes and the game plans, it's all based off what the defense does. it's hard trying to find ways to get guys touches when a team has a certain scheme that really does not allow for you to get him the ball that way, just because they have so many rep players floating inside that might have help over the top. Is finding ways to isolate them. Sometimes that becomes harder based off the scheme. And so it's kind of figuring out ways that it takes a lot. You have to really look into it, just seeing the ways the other teams kind of did similar things with their players. And some teams just they don't really give you those opportunities. And that's what they stand on as a defense. And they're like, yeah, you're not going to be able to do this. You want to beat us doing this. And so you just have to find ways to execute your game plan and put plays in to make sure your best players are making plays.